alternate days. Okay, fine. So lightning flows, why there is so much of these days hype around this lightning flows, why people are keen to learn lightning flows, in the sense the future of Salesforce no code automation, right? So in future it's going to be only Salesforce flows as far as no code automation is concerned. So in any application, people generally love to do the automation, right? So basically an automation in the sense, there should not be any user interaction, right? So whenever there is some activity going to happen in the backend, automatically some functionalities should execute. Let's say, for example, when there is a account gets created, or when there is a high value opportunity gets created, it should automatically able to send an email, right? Okay, so this is basically an automation. Able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. My screen audiometry is not showing, so that's why I checked it. Okay, anyway, thanks. So let's say, for example, there is a high value opportunity gets created. I wanted to notify the management, or I wanted to notify the manager or the record owner. An email should be sent, or a custom notification should be sent, right? These all are the things are generally known as automation, right? So there is no user interaction is there. Automatically, a user creates a record, some action is happening in the backend. Fine. So as of now, the automation can be done in two ways. One is in the declarative way, and another one is through programmatic way, right? In two ways you can able to do it. So as far as a declarative way is concerned, if you look at the current existing opportunities, you will be doing it in the workflow, or you will be doing it with the process builder, or you will be doing it with Salesforce flows, right? Since workflow and process builders are there, generally to do the automation, people normally prefer to do it in workflow and process builder. But definitely that's not going to be the case in future, because it's going to retire, right? Workflow and process builder going to retire soon from winter 23 onwards. So if that's the case, Salesforce is going to be your only scope, right? You can implement the things using Salesforce flows only. So people are forced, those who are working in this Salesforce ecosystem now, they are forced to do it with Salesforce flows. They are forced to learn Salesforce flows. Okay. So you cannot avoid this. Okay, this should be a skill set which is required. Most of the companies are expecting people, even though the developers, they should have the skill set of flows, and admin definitely should have the skill set of Salesforce flows. So the flows not only going to do the automation, you can create a custom user interactive components. Let's say in the home page, I wanted to have a component which should be able to create the lead. No need to get into the lead page and click the new button. I don't want to do that. From the home page itself, I want to
Hi, bro. Bro, you're not audible. Okay, let's wait for Nagarajan to come back.
Salesforce flows has the capability of accessing your org data, right? You can create a record, you can update a record, you can delete a record. All the functionalities are available for you with Salesforce flows. And time dependent schedule actions. Let's say, every day 10 o'clock, I wanted to send a reminder email. I wanted to send a follow-up email. I wanted to create a follow-up task. So these all are the time dependent actions, right? These time dependent actions you can do effectively with Salesforce flows. And as I told, posting to chatter, sending custom notification, all the automations can be done. So the flows alone will have the full muscle power if you say no, right? So when you combine Apex capabilities along with flows, now the flows will become more muscle, than, you are doing it only with the it declarative, You are able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, someone messaging in the chat.
No, in between your voice dropped.
Okay, fine. So I guess it's fine, I guess. Okay, fine. So if I'm not audible, please let me know, right? Okay, that will help me a lot. Okay, fine. So Salesforce flows and Apex combination helps to create powerful automation, all right? So powerful automation in the sense some features cannot be implemented with Salesforce flows alone. If that is a scenario, you need to take a help from Apex. So if a person who knows Apex, he's going to learn Salesforce flows. Now he can build, very fine and very futuristic, Salesforce flows. So supports local action. So supports local action in the sense, probably pure admin may not aware of this. Maybe you might have heard, there is a component building concept called Aura, right? There is a component building concept called Aura. In the Aura, you can write a code that will run in your browser alone. Normally, whatever we are going to build, generally it will be processed in the Salesforce server. It will come into your browser, right? Suppose if I'm going to see something in your Salesforce window, let's say, for example, this is my Salesforce. So I'm going to see a button here. If I'm going to click this button, in the backend, some code will definitely going to execute, right? Some process will going to execute. If the process is going to execute in my browser itself, then it will be very fast. The application will be generally run very fast, right? Suppose when I'm going to click the button, the process is going to happen in the server and then it's come to the client. In the sense, definitely it will take much time, right? So the process or the code which going to run in the browser is generally called as client-side actions. That is called local action. Okay, you can run a JavaScript in Salesforce flows to make it very simple. If people know the JavaScript, this is the definition. You can run JavaScript in Salesforce flows. How it's possible? Through local action. There is a facility called local action. You can able to use that. So the muscle power will be more when you know Apex and JavaScript concepts, then you can increase the power of the component which you are building generally. So this is really a super cool feature in Salesforce flows. So big change, as you know, there will be no process builder and workflow in future. So because of this, Salesforce is concentrating more on sales flows, right? Because this is going to be the only low code automation or no code automation in the sense, it should have all the features, right? So if you look at the each and every release of Salesforce, you can able to see lot of features or a lot of changes. You are able to see that if you are a follower of flows. If you are really a fan of flow, then definitely you could able to see that a lot of changes these days happening with Salesforce flows in each and every release. If there is some updates happening in each and every release, then it gives us a clue that Salesforce is concentrating more on that area, right? So that's what we could able to witness with Salesforce flows. For example, a simple example, people who might have already worked in Salesforce flows, you might have seen the difference these days. Previously, when you write a simple formula in Salesforce, we have no, in flows, we have no clue at all. What all are the formulas exist? What will be the syntax? Whether my formula is safe or is the syntax is correct or not? You have no clue at all. If your formula is wrong, when you are going to activate your flow, it will say that I cannot activate the flow. Check the syntax, right? But these days, if you look at the formula editor these days in Salesforce flows, you have a feature to check the syntax there itself, and you have a beautiful feature of what all are the formulas exist. For example, date and time, what all are the date and time formulas exist. Similarly, you have in the object manager, when you are going to create a formula field, you will be seeing all the functions in the right hand side, right? Similar kind of feature is now they have introduced with Salesforce flows also. Now in the formulas inside Salesforce, You have the feature of identifying what all of the formulas exist, whether I need to go for custom Apex action or these formulas can be helpful. So you can take a call in it. Previously, it was a blind one. We have no clue at all, what all are the functions they exist. So this is one simple example. For example, integration with Slack, right? Integration with Slack is these days available from the flows itself. You can able to integrate with the Slack messaging channel since Salesforce has acquired it, right? So lot of features, so many, interesting features are being introduced in Salesforce flows, but I won't say that 100% that is, ready to replace the code, but still we are far better than what we had previously. Okay. So workflow, what about the workflow and process builder? These days, if you look at your org, you will be having the option to migrate, right? Migrate your workflows and process builders into flows. Okay, you can migrate it. If you create a new playground these days in in the Trailhead playground, probably you might be witnessed when you are going to create a new workflow, you will get only one option: continue in flow builder. Okay, so previously you used to have, do you want to continue with workflow rule, or it's better to build in flow builder? Which one you wanted to choose, or migration, right? So these days, if you look at the new Trailhead playground, you will see only one option in workflow, which is create in flow builder. So obviously you are forced to do the things in flows. Okay, right. So workflow versus process builder versus flows. All right. So this is very crucial. People might have very much familiar with workflow and process builder. Big fan of workflow and process builder. Slight hesitation might be there, right? So flows is concerned. It looks like more programmatic way. So really, I need to switch over. Yes, you have to switch over. That's a different story. So if you look at how the workflow is, behaving, if you look at the workflow will be generally executed after a record created or updated. Let's say I'm creating a workflow rule. Whenever the opportunity, with more than 2 lakhs gets created, I wanted to update a field or rating field or something like that. If that's the case, you will be constructing your workflow. So generally this workflow will be executed after the record saved. Okay, after the record created, or you can call it after the record gets saved. Process builder behaves the same way. So will be executed after the record created or updated. But if you look at the flows has the power of doing something before the record gets saved. I can modify the data before saving it into my org. Okay, so this is one of the major difference between workflow and process builder. This particular feature in flows is generally called as record trigger flows. People from programming background or from admin side also, you might have heard about the triggers, right? So the power of trigger is before you are saving the record, if you want to validate a record or if you want to modify a record field, you do that using the triggers, right? Same functionality is available with flows, which is not available previously in workflow and process builder. So if you ask me to be frank, yes, flows is really a very powerful tool. So rather than the workflow and process builder, if you look at that, because what all are the actions you are going to do in workflow? Let's say a field update, I want to send an email alert, all the things can be done with the flows also. And if you look at process builder, you have more functionalities, more actions can be done when compared with, workflow, right? Approval process can be submitted, a custom notification can be sent, Apex call can be, you can call an Apex, right? All the features are available with flows also. Okay, so flows are very powerful because it has a platform event trigger flow, it has a record trigger flow. Before a record gets saved, you can do something. So workflow and process builder will coming into the picture once the record gets saved. But if you want to do something before the record gets saved, flows has the capability of doing the things. Okay, so that's what the power of flows. The only thing which is missing these days is the outbound message. If you look at the workflow, you have an option of outbound message, right? You can send outbound message to a third-party system through SOAP protocol, right? So that outbound message is generally, these days not available with flows, but we expect in future this functionality will also be implemented. Okay, and a lot of sites are there, AppExchange products are there. If you find some limitations with your flow, you can install the third party, let's say you can install some functionalities from AppExchange as a package, as a managed package, or very famous, website you might be heard about, unofficial AESF, right? So from there, if you look at that, so many actions are there. You can, complex actions are built already. You can use it directly in your flows. So many features are there. We will see all those things in the upcoming session. Okay, so this is an order of execution. So I am a learning admin. I am into the admin. Why I should know about order of execution, right? If you are going to do any automation, you cannot avoid this sequence. You should be familiar with this sequence, okay, how things are happening in Salesforce. So as far as order of execution is concerned, if you look at this particular presentation, you have two key points. One is the record save scenario, and another one is record committed, right? Record save in the sense, you are going to create a record. The record will be initially saved, and then it will be committed to your org. Once the record is committed in your org, it is permanently available for others to access. What about the record saved? A record saved position in the sense, at any point of time, you can roll back the changes before committing. Before committing the records, you can roll back. If you look at this order of execution, see in the blue color section, you can able to see the workflow and process builder. So once the record gets saved, you can able to see the workflow and process builder. In flows, different types of flows are there. One is the Screenflow majorly, and another one is the record trigger flow. You will be learning that sooner. This process builder and the AutoLaunched flows, these guys will execute after the record gets saved. But see here, in the left-hand side, before trigger, your flows before record trigger flow will get executed. So this is the order of execution. Before the record gets saved, if you wanted to do something with that particular record, definitely you can do that with the help of record trigger flows. So the record trigger flows are coming before the trigger. Okay, so before the trigger, this is getting executed. So this is the order of execution. This gives a clear picture that we can, process the data which is not committed as of now. You can do it before saving. You can able to change the data. You can validate the data with the help of flows. These features are not available when you look at the workflow and process builder. Workflow and process builders are generally executed once the record gets saved. Okay, before saving the record, you cannot validate anything, right? So, but that's not the case with flows. So flows has a clear advantage over workflow and process builder. So Salesforce thought that why you need to have so many automations and keeping people, guessing the things, or need to confuse people. It's better to have a single automation that will have rich features. So that's why they are moving towards into these, Salesforce flows. Okay. So is the flows is a savior for, programming way of implementing the things? Definitely not. 100% it's not a solution, but it is increasing its capability, as I told you earlier. So when I have to think about, Apex programming rather than the flows, you should know these things, right? So let's say there is a requirement coming into your plate. You are going to start implementing using flows. So before doing any implementation, you should be familiar whether the particular requirement can be implemented using flows or not, right? So whatever might be the concept you are going to implement, if the implementation cannot be done in flows, after spending 2 days, 3 days, you are coming to you are reaching out to your lead or technical person. You are saying that no, the ticket is not completed. I'm unable to implement this in flows. Now this should be implemented in Apex. That will give you a bad picture to you, right? So you should upfront know the limitations. So Salesforce is a cloud-based application, yes, of course, but it has its own limitations also because it's a multi-tenant architecture, right? A single application is shared between so many users. So if that's the case, definitely there should be some limitations. Otherwise, a single user might be consuming all the resources, others may not get it. So that's the reason Salesforce has in place of governor limits. You might have learned about, or you might have heard about governor limits, right? So complicated logics involved in the requirement, you might be a big fan of flow, but even though that's the case, complicated logic is involved. It's better to manage it with Apex, because if you started to implement in flows at one stage, definitely you need a help of Apex. You will be moving the things with doing the things in Apex, and then you will call that action inside the flow. So if that's the case, it's better to do the things in directly in the Apex itself, right? So before implementing any requirement, you should be clear in upfront whether this can be implemented in Salesforce flows or not. What all are the limitations? What all are the challenges I will be getting when implementing in flows, right? So this is very crucial. Make sure the number of flows can be created in your Salesforce edition. Whatever the Salesforce edition you are going to work, you have to be very clear how many flows or number of flows are allowed to create, right? You should be familiar with that. And another crucial concept as far as flows is concerned, maximum 2000 elements are allowed in your flow. Okay, so maximum 2000 elements in the sense you are going to create a screen, you are going to update your record, you are going to create your record. Everything is called as an element in Salesforce flows. We will see shortly, by creating a flow. So these elements are counted against a limit. So maximum 2000 elements are only allowed in Salesforce flows. In a single flow, you cannot have more than 2000 elements. Okay, 2000 elements is going to be a big flow, definitely. But this is the limitation. You should be always aware of this. And whatever the business logic you are going to do, sometimes you might be repeatedly doing the things using a concept called the loop, right, in Salesforce flows. While implementing loops also, you have to be very careful because it will be counting against the number of elements. Suppose if the loop, or I wanted to repeat the task again and again, in the sense, how many elements you are going to use inside the loop, that will be counted. 5 times I'm going to execute the loop, in the sense, probably the elements will be multiplied. So people, those who are not familiar with elements, will let you know. Okay, so some of the limitations are there. How we are having the limitations, governor limits with Apex. Similarly, we have the governor limits with flows also. Okay, but is it possible to reset these governor limits in middle in flows? Of course, it's possible. Okay, we will see that too. Okay, you can have a local action in between, or you can have a past flow. You can reset the governor limit in middle also. These all are the interesting scenarios we are going to experiment in the session. Okay, so flows limitation, you should know upfront before you are going to implement any scenarios. Different types of flows. Flows can be used to create interactive screens. Flows can be used to create some background process. So different types of flows are there. We will see, hands-on now. Okay, this is very crucial. How to build a flow? I wanted to build a flow. First, user story will be there, right? User story in the sense it's an requirement will be there. Analyze your requirement, decide the flow type. There are varieties of flow types are there. Which flow type will suits my requirement? So before implementing, you should decide these things, right? So, and building the flow, generally the development will happen in the sandbox, right? Okay, after building the flow, what I have to do? I have to debug and test. And I have to do the unit testing, and then deployment will happen. Once it is deployed, make sure it is activated in the deployment in the production or not. Sometimes once you deployed, the deployed flows may not be activated. You need to activate it manually. It might be part of your post-production deployment. You have to be, clear with that. Okay, fine. And you should make sure that the flow has access for all the users of your org. Okay, security can be applied to the flows. So if you feel that, let's say, for example, a sales user, he don't want to use a Screenflow, you can limit that, right? So the user access also there for flows, security also going to play a vital role here. Okay. So if you are going to do a flow or Apex or triggers, whatever it may be, this is a general thing, right? Always follow the best practices. Okay, this is not only creating the flows, of course, it is applicable for flows also. Follow the proper naming convention. What is the use of proper naming convention? You might have, if you are a developer, you might be aware of this, right? Proper naming convention in the sense, it will help others to quickly identify what might be the flow, what might be the use case for this flow. So the naming convention is very, very, very important. You have to follow that, and you should give proper description. Let's say there are two developers going to work in your environment. One is building the flow, the other is also building the flow. So if you don't have any proper description for the flows, then people will be getting confused. What is the use of this particular flow? I have to go through the entire flow. Probably it may take half day or it may take 1 day, right? Depending upon the size of the flow. I will be getting confused what is happening there. It's better to give the description in upfront. And the last thing, once you are done with the flow, if it is a record trigger flow or screen flow, whatever it may be, always it's better to analyze the performance and governor limits, because someone is going to build an automation in flows, the other developer going to build an automation in triggers. So these automations will fire one by one sequentially. Why? Because if you look at the order of execution, this is going to happen, right? Flows will fire, automatically your validation tool fire, custom validation fire, duplicate tool fire, your triggers firing, all the automations will fire, in a sequential way. If that's the case, one automation may impact other automation performance. So you have to be very careful after building the flows. If you want to be a better developer or better flow or developer, you have to be very clear. I will be analyzing the performance once I am done with my flows. That will definitely gives the capability of fine tuning the flows interrelated with the governor limits or the performance. The analysis can be done using debug logs. We will be seeing in the sessions how to use debug logs in the UI itself to identify how things are happening in the background. Okay, fine. This is a sample screenshot of your Screenflow. For example, the Screenflow will be generally built to be an user interactive. Okay, so to make the user interactive in the sense, imagine you have an object. In that object, I have 500 fields. Okay, I have 500 fields. For example, I wanted to set a date and I wanted to create a slot. This is a particular scenario. These fields are definitely going to be there in the record detail page. Then why I need to build a Screenflow? 500 fields are there. This is a particular functionality in the lead process. In the lead process, this is a particular functionality. This particular functionality involves only 2 fields, right? Rather than building the big a record detail page, I have to scroll front and back, I have to scroll up and down, I have to identify where the field is. We are wasting time, right? So rather than that, we can give a simple flow where the users can quickly update the data, they can save it. The record is going to be saved in the lead object itself, right? So we are making life easier for the users based on your functionality wise, grouping the fields and delivering them as a Screenflow, right? Okay, I'm going to build a Screenflow. So what is the use of this Screenflow? Where I can able to use it? You can use it in the home page. You can use it in the record detail page, and you can use it in the quick action. When I click the button in the record detail page, I wanted to show the flow in a model. That's possible. In the list views, you can use the flows in the list views. You can connect and you can get the records IDs which all are selected. That's really a cool feature. Previously, people are doing it with Visualforce pages. Actually, if you know this can be achievable in flows, you won't go for VF pages here, right? But I could able to see that a lot of people are implementing these scenarios using VF pages, but the same can be implemented in flows itself. In Experience Cloud, right? There also you can able to use it. The flows can be used inside LWC component. Flows can be used inside Aura component. All over the places you can use the Screenflows, mainly Screenflows. Okay, without any delay, let's jump into the UI and let's see how to create a simple Screenflow and how to create a flow basically. To create a flow, obviously you have to go to the setup. Let me click the setup. Let me go to setup. In the setup, you have to search for flows. This is a workshop session. So we will be demonstrating a scenario in the UI. Once that demonstration is completed, you can practice the same, in your org, or you can practice in your playground, whatever it may be. I'm having some issues in my browser, I guess. Okay, it's a little bit slow. So, okay, fine. So once the setup is ready, you can search for flows here. You can search for flows in the quick find. You can search for flows. So once the flows is available in the menu, you can able to select that flows. I'm going to click the flows. Now, the list of flows will be displayed. You will be seeing a list view now. In the list view, you will be seeing all the list of flows now. Okay. So here you can able to create a new flow. So these are the flows already available. This is a fresh new org. Even though if you are going to create a new playground or new org, you will have some default flows, which is managed packages from Salesforce itself. These flows are already installed there. So to create a new flow, you have to go for new flow, and you have a new feature also here, Flow Trigger Explorer. We will explore this later. So when you click the new flow, it will take you to the flow builder. Okay, so what we seen previous screen was, it's a list of flows available in my org. Now what I'm going to see is, I'm going to see a flow builder. What is mean by flow builder? Flow builder is a place where you will be constructing your flows, where you will be designing your flows. If it is going to be a record trigger flow or a screen flow, all the things you will be doing it in the flow builder. So this is basically a flow builder. When you are going to create a flow, initially it will ask you whether you are going to do it in the screen flow or you are going to do it in the record trigger flow. Screen flow in the sense, it will have user interaction. You will have the input boxes, user can type something, user can select something, user can click a button. These things generally happen, with screen flows. If you don't feel that no user interaction is required, it should be automatically happen in the sense, then the implementation should be there in the record trigger flow. So record trigger flow, I have explained already the order of execution, right? When I'm trying to create a record, before save, I wanted to do some business implementation. Or once the record gets saved, I wanted to do some implementation. Let's say, for example, when an opportunity gets created, I wanted to send an email. That will be implemented in the after record save, right? So these implementations, no user interaction is required. It is basically depending on when the record gets created, some automation needs to happen. If that's the case, I will be going for a record trigger flow. Schedule trigger flow, right? As I told, every day 10 a.m. in the morning or every day night 10 p.m. I wanted to schedule some automation, right? The automation might be sending an email or sending a custom notification or sending an SMS or sending a WhatsApp messages, whatever may be. All the follow-up things can happen with schedule trigger flow. Yeah, flow can be scheduled. Here also no user interactive elements. Okay, it will run in the background, but we can able to see that whether it is successfully run or not, or when it was scheduled, all the things we can able to analyze. That is generally called as scheduled trigger flow. These things are already you might have implemented in the workflow and process builder. That is called as a schedule action, right? That schedule action is, schedule actions you can implement using schedule trigger flow. And then platform event trigger flow. Let's say there is some action happen in the trigger. Trigger is going to do something. I wanted to notify. Okay, I wanted to notify, or the changes done by the triggers, right? If that's the case, the trigger can raise a platform event and it can register that platform event. If I have a flow, my flow will sense that and it will try to do the automation which is built on top of that. So basically, different automations can communicate each other with the help of platform events. We will see that too. AutoLaunched flow or no trigger flow. No trigger. AutoLaunched in the sense reusability, right? I wanted to build a functionality. Let's say whenever a high value opportunity gets created, I wanted to send an email. Whenever a lead gets created, I wanted to send an email. If you look at these two scenarios, sending email is a common functionality, right? In both the scenarios, I have to send an email. So what might be the difference? might be the to address, might be the subject and the description, right? This might be the difference. If that's the case, rather than building the application again and again, rather than building the flow again and again, we can build a flow one time and we can reuse it, right? The reusable flows are generally called as auto-launched flows. We will call it as a SubFlow also. So if you want to be a good flow builder, always you should think about auto-launched flows, because rather than dumping the entire functionality in a single flow, you should think about reusable flows. The main flow will look clean and neat. I can able to easily identify what all are the functionalities happening. The individual pieces will be in a separate flows. I will combine everything in the main flow. So if you want to make the help of reusability, then that can be achievable with the help of auto-launched flows. So previously, people, those who have worked in Process Builder might have familiar, you have created auto-launched flows and you used it from the Process Builder. From the Process Builder, you will be calling these flows, right? So this is basically a reusable type of flow. So different types of flows are already available in Salesforce. We are going to learn Screenflow first. So you select this and click create, it will create a Screenflow. So the changes, okay, as usual, a lot of changes are these days available with the flow builder itself. If you look at here at the top, previously the auto layout was in beta version. Now it is readily available. You can use the auto layout or you can use your Freeform. What is meant by Freeform and what is meant by auto layout? Auto layout in the sense, it will automatically arrange the elements in the flows, in the flow builder. If I'm going for a Freeform, the entire screen will different now. If you look at here, you could able to see a lot of changes now. In the left-hand side, you are seeing the elements. These all are the building blocks of Salesforce flows. If you want to build a user interactive element, then you need a screen, right? That is generally called as an element. If you want to call an Apex code, you will be using action. Okay, so this is an element. If you want to use an auto-launched flow, you will be using a SubFlow. So these all are the elements. So basically, a flow will be built with the help of elements and resources. Elements and resources, okay, in together forms a flow. If it is a record trigger flow or if it is going to be a screen flow, whatever it may be. Without elements, you cannot build anything, right? So the elements generally classified into different ways: user interaction and business implementation perspective. We will be thinking logically, right? Let's say, for example, you might have noticed there is a scenario in your blood support application. When the age is less than 18, the donor is not allowed to be created, right? So there is a logic involved there. There is a conditional checking is there, right? There is a validation is there. You are thinking and you are trying to apply that in the validation rule. If age is greater than 18, so you are writing the way, right? If means it's a logic. You are implementing a logic, right? That is generally called here in flows as a decision, right? So if you are going to implement any validation rule, formulas, or any business implementation, definitely the implementation will involve a decision. It will involve the records, right? Without these things, you cannot able to do anything, right? So the logical parts, I want to execute again and again, then I have to make use of the loops, right? Okay, we will discuss more about these elements in detail way in the upcoming session. So another one is the CRUD operation. As I told, Salesforce Flows has the power of interacting with your org data. You can create a record, update, delete. These things are carried out by these data elements. Okay, fine. This is a free form. If I'm switching over to auto layout, if you look at this flow builder, all the left-hand side elements gone. You are not able to see anything here, right? But there is a plus icon here. If you click this plus icon, now we can able to see all the elements here. So whatever the elements you've seen in the left-hand side as a separate tab, now it is available inside the flow itself. If you click the plus element, you can able to see all the elements, the data elements, the logic elements, the interactions, everything is here. Okay. So if you look at this, is a new feature now they have introduced. If you look at the left-hand side top, there is a window type icon, toggle toolbox, right? If I click here, now I can able to see the toolbox now. So this is a new feature now they have introduced. You can able to toggle the toolbox and you can able to open it and you can able to hide it. Okay, how to create a manager and resources, that's a separate story. We will learn it. Okay, fine. Suppose I want to add a simple screen here. I will be clicking this button and I will be selecting a screen. Immediately a screen will be coming into the picture. We are going to build a screen flow. Without a screen or nothing is there, right? So I'm going to create a simple screen flow. Whenever you are going to create a screen flow, initially in the right hand side, you can able to see the screen properties. Okay, the properties. What is meant by property? How flow will identify each and every element that is decided by these properties. This is a screen. This is actually a screen. A screen will have a header and a footer. The footer will have buttons because a screen flow can be built in a single screen itself, or it can have multiple screens. If that's the case, user should navigate from one screen to another screen, right? No need to write anything. Automatically, Salesforce will take care of that. Only thing is you need to add the screens. So the buttons will be available in the footer. If you want to finish the flow, you can click the finish button and the flow will be finished. If you want to move previous screen, you can click the previous screen and you can able to go to that. So this is basically a screen. So each and every element in the flow builder should have properties. The properties consist of label as well as API name. Very basic properties. Label, what is meant by label? Okay, when I'm looking into the flow, in the flow builder, I should identify what is the use of the screen, right? So how we will identify the things? We will identify the things using label. How Salesforce will identify, as you might be familiar in the objects and fields creation itself, whenever you create an object, API name will be there. Whenever you create a field, API name will be there, right? What is the use of API name? The application or Salesforce will uniquely identify each and every element, with the help of API name. So same thing applicable here also. This is a screen. So I need to give you a label for this and I have to give you a name for this screen, right? So for example, this is a main screen. I'm simply going to give main screen and here comes the API name. Once I click the tab from here, the focus will be now shifted into API name. Automatically, the API name will be constructed here, right? So the API name, if you're able to see that main underscore screen, why? API name should not contain any spaces in between. So I have an label here. I have an API name. If I wanted to give some description, this is the main screen, and I'm going to give some description here. If I click done here, automatically a screen will be introduced into the flow. Once you've done some changes here, you can click the save button. Now it will ask you to give the name of your flow. So far, it will not ask anything about in which name you wanted to save the flow. Once you're trying to click the save button, then only it will ask you, for the first time when you are clicking the save button, it will ask you to give the name for the flow. I have to give a flow label here, right? Here, I will follow the best practice. What is the best practice I will follow? The name of this particular flow. User should be able to identify what is the purpose of this flow by seeing the name itself. This is a screen flow. So as per the naming convention is concerned, it should start with screen colon. Okay, because there are different types of flows can be created. If I look at the list of flows, I should be able to easily identify this is a screen flow, this is a record trigger flow. This is a record trigger flow on which object. I have to easily identify, right? Otherwise, I need to open and I have to check that it's a time consuming. Productivity will be decreased. So I'm going to give you a label called the screen. What is the purpose of this flow? This is going to be a demo flow. So I'm going to give screen colon demo flow. API name, automatically it will take care of the spaces and the characters and it will put underscore there. And description and demo flow. Okay, that's it. Whatever the description you wanted to give, you have to give, but you should give. Okay, as part of the best practice, even though you are going to do it yourself, or it is a case study with AJ skill, whatever it may be, you should follow the best practices. Okay, otherwise, when you are into the industry, it will take time for you to practice that. Okay, you might be facing some challenges there because of this habit. So it's better to start with the, with the naming conventions. So best practices. I've saved the flow. the flow is ready. Now I wanted to test this flow before delivering. I wanted to test this flow, whether this flow is working fine or not. How I can able to do that? For that, here you have a button called debug. Okay, before delivering it, you can test it. Okay, this is called unit testing. You can test it, how it looks like, whether the functionalities are working properly or not. That is what the purpose of this debug button. I'm going to click this debug button. Once I click this debug button, this is a debugger. This is generally called as a debugger window. Your flow builder is there in a separate tab. And once I debugged it, there is a new window popped up. This new window is going to debug the flow. What is meant by debug the flow? Before delivering, we are going to unit test this. That is generally called as a debug. I'm going to debug the flow. We will see these things very clear in later. First, I'm going to debug this flow. I'm able to see that. If you look at here, this is the output. In the screen, we haven't placed anything, right? Simply we created a screen. So we are seeing a blank screen and a finish button. Why I have a finish button? There is only one screen. So that's why I have a finish button here. In the right-hand side, I can able to see the information. This is very, 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 very crucial for a developer. If you want to be master of flows, then you should concentrate on the right-hand side part. That is the debug details. If you want to fix the issues with your flows very fast, then you should read the contents in the debug details. If you are not interested in the right-hand side part, then if there is any issues, it will take hours and it will take days for you to fix the issues. Always you should read the content in the right-hand side. If you look at this, how the interview started, there is a new word, interview, right? So far we are discussing about flows and those things. Now there is a new term coming into the picture called interview. Whenever you are going to run a flow, Salesforce system will create a process for that. That is generally called as interview. Let's say I wanted to insert 10 records, and while inserting 10 records, I wanted to do some process, some automated. I wanted to add a new field value. If that's the case, Salesforce will create 10 interviews. And at the end of the day, these 10 interviews will be grouped and bulkified way Salesforce will do the things. We will experiment those things in the upcoming session. So generally, whenever you are going to debug a flow, your interview will run. Whenever you are going to execute a flow, automatically a flow interview will run. The interview will be given to the Salesforce, a runtime environment, and that will process it, and that will give the expected result. So that's the story. And on the right hand side, you could able to see that my user ID, who is running this flow. I can able to see my user ID here. What is the API version? This is the latest version. Okay, some functionalities may not be supported in the version. For example, if you're going to place a 2-column layout in API version 56, and if you want to deploy it using VS Code is unable to recognize this page layout, the 2-column page layout. If you are going to deploy using VS Code, it will stop you deployment because it says that this is not supported. So if you change that, that's fine. So the API versions are really very important. It decides which functionalities is supported in a particular version. That is basically about the version here. Okay, I'm able to see that this is the finished screen. I'm not interested with that. So if I wanted to run again, and I can click the button run again. If you want to change any inputs, if I'm going to have, that's a different story. We are not going to see this as of now. If you want to run again, you can run again. So this is basically debugging a flow. If you close that window, you will be coming back to the flow editor, flow builder, right? I'm going to introduce a new component. A screen will consist of generally the components. If you look at in the left-hand side, you have so many components already built. I wanted to display a welcome message. If that's the case, there is a component called display text. I can able to drag and drop, and I'm placing it, display text. Okay, fine. So display text is available here. This is a component. As usual, every element will have a label and API, right? So API name I need to give. So API name, I'm going to give it as welcome message. Okay, welcome message I'm going to give. What is the text you wanted to display in the element? That is what you need to enter here. For example, welcome to flows. Okay, welcome to flows. This can be formatted. This can be formatted in the sense the size can be increased, the font size changed, and the alignment can be changed. So many things are available here. I'm able to do that. Once I clicked done, and I have to save it. Okay, so once there is any changes going to happen, automatically the save button will be enabled. You can click the save button, it will be save the changes what you did so far. And I need to test it, right? Whether it is looking fine or not. I wanted to debug, and I'm debugging again. Now I could able to see that, the changes here in the debug window. I'm able to see that now there is a beautiful, header, the beautiful display text there. It says that welcome to flows. I'm going to finish it and I'm closing this. Now this flow is ready. So how to use this flow? That's a separate story. So before moving into that, for example, I wanted to create one more screen. What is the option left for me? I wanted to create one more screen. What I can do, I can go for Freeform. Once I am into the Freeform, I can able to see the screen element, and I can able to drag and drop here. Once I'm going to drag and drop, it will ask again the second screen API name. What is the label you wanted to give? All the things it will ask. This is one way, right? This is one way. In the Freeform, you can drag and drop. Okay, if I am switching it back to auto layout, then you cannot drag and drop here, right? Then how I can add a second screen? You can simply click this plus button. You'll be having an option called screen, and you can be able to add the screen. For example, this is a second screen, and I'm going to create this second screen. Okay, now the second screen is ready. Okay, sometimes there might be a requirement. I have built a screen. I want a similar screen. Okay, I wanted to have a similar screen. The screen may contains 10 elements, 20 elements. I wanted to build a ditto, a similar screen I wanted to create. If that's the case, if you are going to create a new screen and then drag and drop the elements, probably it may take another 1 hour to build that screen, right? The shortcut is you can able to copy this, right? So if you look at here, you have an option called copy element, right? You have an option called copy element, and I can click the copy element. Immediately it will say that the element is copied. Please practice everything with the auto layout. Initially it might be looks a little bit confusing for you, but it's a really very cool feature. You can make use of the auto layout. I have copied the screen, right? When I click the next button here, I can able to see that paste element, right? If I clicked it, there is a new screen created. There is no drag and drop. Simply I have copied it and I have created a new element. This saves a lot of time for me, right? No need to build from the scratch the next screen. If I open this screen, I'm able to see the same design what I had in the first screen, right? What I had in the first screen, same thing is copied here. I can able to see that. But only thing is, look at the label. It says that copy one of main screen. Probably this may not be a relevant one, right? So what you have to do, you have to select the element and you can edit that element and you can change whatever the label you wanted to change, you can change it, right? I'm going to give it as a third screen. I'm going to make it as a third screen. I'm not going to change the API name, just the label I'm changing it. Now I get able to see that this is a third screen, right? And another way, I wanted to copy two screens. Then in the left-hand side, you can able to see that there is a select elements, right? I'm going to click it. Once I click it, you could able to see that there is a change in the icon, right? In each and every screen. I'm going to select this plus, and I'm going to select this plus also. So two screens I have selected. You can able to see that there is a tick mark. There is a tick mark. It means that these two screens are now selected. Now, if I go to the left-hand side top, there is a button called copy elements. I'm going to click that, copied. Now I'm coming to the plus. If I move here, I can able to see paste two elements, click it. Now you could able to see that if I, if you want to minimize the flow at the bottom left, you have a minus button. If you click that, you can able to see the flows. Quickly, I have created, 5 screens very quickly. Okay, 5 screens with the same elements which I had, right? You can able to see that again, the same stuff, it gets created. I'm able to see that, save that, right? So in the auto layout, you can create it very fast. Okay, so the productivity increased a lot. So these are all the cool features really these days available with Salesforce flows. You can build very fast, right? That is really required. A ticket might be given a time period of maybe, maybe 3 hours or 4 hours, or maybe a 1 day. Within 1 day, you need to finish this. If you want to create a new screen with the similar kind of components, in the sense it will probably take 3 hours, 4 hours. It's a time killing one, right? That can be taken care of by these new features introduced. You can take advantage of this. This is done. I have saved it. So once all the changes are saved, the save button will be disabled. Now you can run the flow again by clicking the debug button. Once you click that, you can able to see the debug screen. Now see, there is no finish. Now I have next, because there is a next screen available. So that's why I'm seeing a next button here. Once I click the next button, I'm able to see the second screen. You can able to see that the first screen completed. So in the debug details, in the right hand side, if you see that the first screen completed, that information will be available. When I move to the next screen, in the right hand side, the second screen completed. You can able to see screen. I'm highlighting this screen. Second screen gets completed. Now I am into the third screen. Once I click the next button, now the third screen will be completed. And in the right hand side, you can able to see the third screen gets completed. Once I click the next, I am into the fourth screen. So that's why I told this window is very crucial. You can able to see what all are the data users entered, how your decisions are behaving, how your logical implementations are behaving. Everything you can able to identify from here. Now I'm into the final screen. Once I click finished, I'm able to see the end, right? Transaction committed, that's the end. So quickly we have created 5 screens, right? If I want to change it into Freeform, again, I can change it into Freeform. What is the use of Freeform? Now I can able to place it like this. Because of the Freeform, I'm doing like this. Wherever I want to place the screens, I can place the screens with the help of Freeform, right? So this is the way these days probably, people might have designed the flow. Look at this. There is no alignment, nothing. So this is not looks nice, right? So probably what you will expect, you probably expect to have it in a ordered way, in a decent way. The UI should looks like, the builder should looks like, right? Again, you can switch to auto layout. When you are going for auto layout, it will again coming into this particular order, one by one. You can able to see that. And if you want to minimize the flow, you can able to minimize the flow. If you want to maximize, you can maximize the flow. Okay, so that's it for the day. You can practice creating a screen, cloning a screen, okay, and debugging the screen. We will have more hands-on in next session. Any questions?
So one question related to the naming convention.
Yes.
So the property naming, when we first initialized the screen and the right hand side, the property came, and that is within the process builder. And while saving the flow, that will show in the flow.
Each flow will have a name, right? So if you look at this particular property, this is the flow property. Each flow will have a name, how you will identify a flow. That is what the flow properties. If you look at the elements, these all are the elements, right? Screen is an element. If you look at the screen, screen will have a property. See at the top, screen properties. If you look at the display text will have a property. Each and every element will have a property, because Salesforce should identify, right? How it will identify the elements using the API name. Where you will configure the API name, you will configure the API name in the properties.
Okay, thank you. And then the another question is, the debug window will show the entire record.
Entire process, in the sense, first screen, second screen, it will process screen by screen, right?
Okay,
it will process screen by screen. In the upcoming sessions, you will be seeing so many information in the debug window. As of now, we don't have anything in the screen, right? It's simply a display.
Okay, thank you.
Nagraj, I'm sorry for this. Actually, today is the class. Alternative days, in the sense, tomorrow is leave and Saturday is the session.
Yes, of course. And then Monday, it will go on like that.
Thanks.
Nagraj, I do have a query. Whether this session is going to be the same session as already uploaded in the drive, or else will it going to happen like the workshop which Ashok has conducted for data security?
Yes, it will be like a workshop. It will be uploaded in a separate video flows workshop folder. They will upload it. The faculty will upload it.
No, it's not about uploading. I'm asking you that whether we are also going to work along with you as like workshop, or else
Yes,
it's going to be a
definitely.
session.
It's not a session, it's a workshop. Probably today it's a one way, because I need to give some introduction, right? I cannot ask you guys to directly do it, right? You should know the pros and cons, right? So the inner and outer parts of the flows automation. So that's why I took the whole day. So probably from next, next session onwards, you will be having 30 minutes to practice. I will be giving you the scenarios.
Fine, because
what you did in the
which we
security.
want is that we would like to work along with you.
That's what workshop, right?
When there is a risk, exactly.
That's what workshop. Definitely, you are going to do it. I'm going to be a spectator, for 30 minutes.
Fine, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, Nagaraj.
Good morning.
Thanks for the session, Nagaraj. May I know the duration, how many days it will take for this workshop, closed workshop, Nagaraj?
So as of now, it's a workshop, right? So we will be doing the things, and then you will be practicing the same thing. I will be giving the do it yourself. You'll be doing it, practicing it. So it will goes on like that. As of now, we don't have any timeline for that. So probably Ashok will be the right person to explain that.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Nagaraj. Actually, we have a conflict. For us, there is a regular session between 8 to 9.
Okay. So this is an alternate days in the sense we'll be covering all the flows topics. So last time when we did session, it took 10 days to complete that, but this will take more because it's a workshop, right? So it's not a delivery. It's not about delivery. It's about making people understand the concept and making them to do the things hands-on, right?
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Nagaraj.
Yeah, okay.
Nagaraj.
Hi.
Yeah. So nowadays, like workflow and process builder is going to retire, right?
Yes.
So every companies are like moving from process builder or migrating process builder or workflows to flows.
Yes.
So have you like planned to demo that to us? Like
we will do that one day here, because that's not a big deal. It's a wizard kind of stuff. So there is a migration. If you click that, automatically it will convert. Okay. We will compare how it looks like, right? When we are going to build a flow, how it looks like, when it is the wizard is converting, how it looks like. We will definitely compare that in the workshop.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, we'll do that. Yes, Shaktivel. Sheila, you have anything to be discussed? Any questions? Sheila, I'm not able to hear you. Probably you are having some audio issues, I guess. Okay, fine. I'm hearing a lot of noise. Please mute yourself. Okay, I'm hearing a lot of noise. You might have some issues with your headset, I guess. Ashok, I'm done for the day. You wanted to say anything?
One last question. I mean, it's a very basic question. Save and save as, right? When you save, every time you edit, it's a save.
Yes.
And then
save
when
in the sense you are going to create a new flow. Okay. Pretty straightforward.
So it will be a new version of the current.
When you are going for a save as, you will have the option, right? Whether you want to create a new version or you're going to create a new flow. I haven't touched a version concept so far, so that's why I haven't went through that. Okay. In the next session. Okay.
Thank you.
So to answer your question, in the chat, can you explain what is an interview? Interview in the sense it's a process. When you are trying to debug the flow will create a process, right? The flow should create a process that will be taken care by the runtime environments. That process is called as generally a interview. Whatever you are going to build, that's a flow. When you are going to run it, it will be loaded into memory as a interview in the sense, as of now, you consider that is also a flow, but technically we are calling it as an interview. When you are going to write a record trigger flow, that should loop the records 5 times or 5 times 5 records it needs to process. In the sense, there will be only one flow, but 5 interviews will be running. That's basically a difference. Yeah, governor limits and everything. When we are going to discuss about record trigger flows, we will, technically speak more about governor limits if you are a beginner. Do we need to complete any topics in the sense? Probably formulas, I don't think that there is a prior requirement for flows, but probably formulas will help you a lot in understanding the logics implementation, right? Okay, fine. So I need to be in the Q&A 9 o'clock. Process builder, yes, if process builder is available, you can able to do the process builder. But anyhow, new implementation should happen these days. Is generally happening these days with the flows. So no one is building the new requirement in the process builder. But probably if you're really interested, you can take that. There is no restriction for that. You can take the process builder. It's up to you. Anyway, thanks for the day. So Ashok will be winding up the session for the day. We'll be connecting the next session, that is on Saturday morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will have more hands-on on Saturday. We'll make you guys to practice.
Thanks.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ashok, if you're talking, maybe you're on mute.